morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice of radio. So today, I am going to be answering a question that was posed over on my Patreon, patreon.com/PTCGRadio. Which of the villain teams in the Pokemon trading card game has had the best set of cards? Now, the lovely AJ Brass, who is one of the $50 supporters over there, who can demand I make a video, wants me to make videos about the villains, and I thought a nice good video to start with would be the best team. And I don't think it's that close, ladies and gentlemen, although there's a comment section. That's where good-natured, friendly arguments come in. I think it's Team Flare. Team Flare, I think, have the best support of any team. Now, I'm not counting the Team Plasma Pokemon because it's not really fair. Not every team have had their own Pokemon, so that might skew things a little bit. We're just looking at the support cards, and Team Flare are number one. Let me explain to you why. So Team Flare have had 3 item cards, one of which was all right. Not great. Target Whistle. Target Whistle is that card that everybody, myself included, really tried to make work. Target Whistle was an item card that allowed you to drag one of your opponent's basic Pokemon from the discard pile onto their bench. This was great. Except it was never really ubiquitous. I played a Raichu Golbat deck for a while, and I played this with the aim and the hope of, well, I played Crobat as well, because obviously, Crobat, with the hope of grabbing something like a Joltik and getting an easy KO with a Crobat. And it just so rarely worked. We all tried it. It never really worked. It was supposed to be amazing to get Shaman and KO it for 2 prizes, but it never really worked. But then we had Robo Substitute. Robo Substitute, you could pop it in the active, and if it got KO'd, it didn't give up a prize. Hit and run decks, I'm looking at you, Don Fan. Adored this, because you hit, switch to the bench, pop a Robo Sub up, your opponent can't do much. They can KO it, but I don't get a prize for doing so. That's annoying. Primal Groudon also used this for a little while, just as a nice little blocker, so they could set up a very expensive Pokemon on the bench. It couldn't be dragged into the active because of its ancient trait, and so you could set up nicely on the bench. And Battle Compressor. People often forget that Battle Compressor is a Team Flare card. The logo's right there on the thing, plus it says Team Flare gear. Search your deck for 3 cards and discard them. This has been absolutely vital in Night March decks for discarding, in Vespiquen decks for discarding Pokemon, in any dark decks playing Dark Patch, so you can discard the energy. There's just way too many decks that have wanted to discard. In Standard at the format, we've got Shuckle, which can do this just for energy. This is a broken card that is over the top great. There is a strong argument that this should have been banned and expanded already. It's a phenomenal card. But there are a couple of tools as well. Head Ringer and Jamming Net. Now, these were super weird tools, right? Because you could put them on your opponent's Pokemon. This was very rare. We don't see cards like this very often. Now, Jamming Net was the lesser played of the two. You put it on your opponent's Pokemon, and they did 20 less damage. So what you would do is combine this with something like Hard Charm, for instance, and then your opponent would essentially be doing 40 less damage every time they attacked. This was a lot of fun. We did see a few Pyroar decks play this, because Pyroar couldn't be attacked by a basic Pokemon, and then you would play this to stop evolved Pokemon doing very much. It was kind of hilarious. It was fun. And then, of course, we had Headringer. Headringer was great. Headringer saw a lot of play. Headringer could only be attached to an EX Pokemon. Okay. I should mention Jamming Net could also only be attached to an EX Pokemon. Should really get that out there. And Headringer meant that your opponent's attacks cost 1 more. So you could put it on a Shaman, so they'd no longer be able to use Sky Return for just a double colorless energy. You'd put it on a Seismitoad, as long as they weren't already item locking you, so that they couldn't use Quaking Punch for just a double colorless energy. You'd put it on a Primal Groudon, so it would be a 5 energy attack, not a 4 energy attack. And also, right, if you're putting this on them, then they can no longer use stuff like Muscle Band, for instance. Not only did it mean that they could do less damage or their attacks are more expensive, but it actually meant that they lost the opportunity to put a tool on there. So to go back to Jamming Net, you took 20 damage away from them, but actually you took away Muscle Band, so it could actually be more than this, which was awesome. Now, we've only had one Team Flare Stadium, and this was Lysander Labs. Now, there is an argument here that this isn't a true Team Flare card. I'm not buying it personally, but if you look at all the other cards we've seen so far, they are designated as Team Flare cards, and the other cards we're going to be looking at as we go through are designated as Team Flare cards. But it's Lysander's Lab. It's clearly a Team Flare card. It's the only Team Flare Stadium we've had, and honestly, it's not particularly exciting. Pokemon tool cards in play have no effect. So, at the moment, we'd see that Choice Band doesn't do an extra 30 damage. Escape Board doesn't reduce your retreat. Look, compared to something like Brooklet Hill or the upcoming Lavender Town that lets you look at your opponent's hand once per turn, or really Shrine of Punishment, it's just woefully underpowered. That's why it's not really seen any play. But we all know that it's the supporter cards that really put Team Flare up into the "oh my god, that's ridiculous" stage. Although don't sleep on how great Battle Compressor was. So recently we had Lysander Prism Star, and Lysander Prism Star was fine. It's not great, it's fine. What you get to do is, for each of your fire Pokemon in play, you put a card from your opponent's discard pile into the lost zone from which it cannot be recovered. And I still contend if you're playing any real fire deck, you should play one of these. It's super annoying. Now, I know Blacephalon decks are fire decks, but it is worth bearing in mind that you'll generally have one or two in play. It's not like if you play a Flareon GX deck, still hoping that's great, whereby you can actually potentially get 5 or 6. Fun, not game-breaking. But we did have Team Flare Grunt. Team Flare Grunt is a kind of card that always sees play in Expanded, and if it were reprinted, it would instantly be put into a whole bunch of decks. You just discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, we've got Plumeria at the moment that can discard an energy from any Pokemon on your opponent's side of the field, but you've got to discard 2 cards from your hand to do so. It's not terribly easy to do. It's a little bit annoying at times, although you can discard energy from the bench. In any of these decks like Sylveon, like Hooper, which are really trying to just block your opponent, Team Flare Grunt is just an absolute given. And of course, in Expanded where this is legal, Versus Seeker, yeah. The fact that it had Versus Seeker at the time was also a little bit redonk. And while we're there, let's not forget about Xerosic. Xerosic gets rid of a special energy or a tool from any of your opponent's Pokemon. As a side note, the supporter cards are actually not denoted as Team Flare anyway, so that strengthens my Lysander Labs argument. And this was good. It saw a lot of play, still sees a bit of play in Expanded, more of a one-off because of Versus Seeker, and not as good as Team Flare Grunt, because it can't get basic energy, but it's a good card that's seen a lot of play, and it's super annoying. But we all know that Lysander is the leader of Team Flare. And we all know that Lysander is the real reason that this gets up into the best villain category. And we've looked at Lysander Prism Star, and Lysander Prism Star is fine. It's alright. We're seeing worse. It's not exactly inspiring. But ladies and gentlemen, Lysander. Oh, Lysander is amazing. Because you see, you just get to drag a Pokemon off the bench. Now, nowadays, we've all got Guzma, which is a switch as well. There is an argument as to which one is better. The answer is, it depends. But what is redonk, ladies and gentlemen, is that for a very long time, it was the only way that you could gust Pokemon off the bench. Post-Pokemon Catcher, when it was on a coin flip, which didn't really count. Pre-Guzma, this was it. This is what we had, ladies and gentlemen. And it was just a 3 or 4 of in every deck. Sometimes 2, but very rarely. And yeah, I know that Team Skull have got Guzma, and that Guzma is essentially equivalent to Lysander, but Team Skull doesn't have all the other stuff we've been talking about. But even within Lysander, it's Lysander's trump card. That is what really pushes Team Flare over the edge. A card that is so gosh darn good, it literally had to be banned because without exaggeration, it ruined the game. And here's the thing, right? We're talking about the best villain team we've had in the Pokemon trading card game. Now, Team Flare Grunt, Xerosic, they're kind of annoying. Lysander, kind of annoying. But Lysander's trump card was such an annoying card, it broke the game. That sounds like a villainous card to me. Now, what it did was it allowed you to shuffle your entire discard pile, and your opponent had to as well, into your deck other than this. But because of Versus Seeker, you could reuse it. So people would just play speed decks, and they'd play stuff like Crushing Hammer, and Super Scoop Up, and Hypnotoxic Laser, but they'd be able to play them every single turn. Essentially, people would play a Seismitoad deck, and then every turn they would hit a Crushing Hammer to get rid of your energy, hit heads on a Hypnotoxic Laser to put you asleep while poisoning you, and if you did any damage, they'd hit heads on a Super Scoop Up to recover their Pokemon. It was just crazy how over the top this was. I did do a video about why this was banned. I'll pop a link to that one in the description. But frankly, there's never been a team like Team Flare Grunt, ladies and gentlemen. There has never been a team like Team Flare Grunt. They are the best, most impactful, call it what you will, team that we have ever seen in the Pokemon trading card game. They are the biggest villains we've ever had. I feel strongly about this. But hey, maybe you don't. In which case, let me know in the comment section, ladies and gentlemen. Go nuts! But please do remember the rule. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays. We're over 3,000 subs. I'm delighted, but I'm a greedy man, and I think we can do better. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.